didn't even do nothing. What car does he drive?
It doesn't matter. It
You don't
doesn't
know
matter.
who did it.
Okay, he's still going to jail regardless.
Oh, because he's a black man. And he was just the first one you saw, huh?
Okay.
In Las Vegas, a police officer saw a man with a gun, but it wasn't actually a real gun. It was just a finger gun, a harmless hand gesture. Though harmless, the officer was not happy about it. He decided to go get a bunch of his buddies and go teach the guy a lesson. The officer noticed that the suspect was driving a black Dodge Durango and saw him turn into a nearby parking garage. The suspect parked, took the garage elevator to the ground floor, and when the elevator opened, there were no cops waiting for him. He walked off and he probably had a great time that night. But when another black male who had entered the parking garage in a different car also subsequently took that same elevator to the ground floor, cops were waiting for him. The wrong guy. Body cams off, ready to teach him a lesson. Tim, his sister Alyssa, and her boyfriend Ken were completely innocent.
The police just stopped us for no reason.
And they just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, meeting the wrong cops.
I'm telling you to back up. Now you're being detained.
Even though it was a case of mistaken identity, and even though the actual suspect the cops were looking for had committed no real crime, these cops would cover up their mistakes with false charges and lies. And they would almost get away with it, but fortunately, this lawyer saved the day. He gave me the footage and the story. Let's go through it.
He grabs him first, starts to take him down, and then says, "You're under arrest."
As a lawyer, I deal with enough things that jam up and don't work right. My wallet shouldn't be one of them. That's why I ditched my Ridge and switched to Exter, the sponsor of today's video. Here's the thing, the Ridge always felt like a brick in my pocket. Cards would stick, the bands would loosen, getting what I actually needed was frustrating. With Exter, I get effortless access. Their new metal ejector trigger fans my cards out instantly, no fumbling. There's even a separate outside card compartment perfect for your ID or your work card or your gym card. Imagine a wallet that holds up to 14 cards and cash but still disappears in your pocket. That's Exter, premium Vachetta leather, fully recycled aluminum, and a lifetime warranty. I'm also now using their travel pack vacuum kit. I travel a lot and very little space gets devoted to my things. So now I use this to fit more. I love that my clothes arrive vacuum sealed at my destination and not all wrinkled and jumbled up. So here's the deal. For my audience, you can get an extra 10% off right now on top of their existing site-wide deals. Use code TCRL at checkout. I'll put the link below. I highly recommend I use mine every day. Now let's get back to the video. On November 11th, 2023 at around 9 p.m., Tim McCoy, his sister Alyssa King, and her boyfriend Ken Kennedy decided to drive to Fremont Street Experience in Las Vegas to have some tacos and walk around and have a good time. Officer George or Jorge Caloca, a police officer employed as a city marshal by the city of Las Vegas, was driving a marked police cruiser around the Fremont Street Experience along the intersection of Fremont Street and 4th Street. While conducting a stop, Officer Caloca noticed a black Dodge Durango traveling northbound on 4th Street, where he claims to have observed the driver use his hand to make a finger gun, a hand gesture using fingers to resemble a handgun. The black Durango then entered the Neonopolis parking garage. At around the same time that the Durango entered that parking garage, Tim, Alyssa, and Ken also entered that same parking garage, though they were driving a gray Hyundai. Surveillance video shows the occupants of the Durango using the parking garage elevator first to reach the ground floor. The black adult male wearing a bright colored sweater is the individual who is alleged to have made the finger gun hand gesture. Shortly afterwards, Tim, Alyssa, and Ken then walk up to the same elevator. They get in that very same elevator and go to the very same ground floor level in order to reach the Fremont Street Experience. But when they exit the elevator on the ground floor, there was a group of police officers there waiting for them. So instead of the police stopping the guy in the colorful sweater who had been driving the Dodge Durango and who had made the finger gun at Officer Caloca, they instead confronted Tim, Alyssa, and Ken. The officers immediately began aggressively questioning them about this hand gesture that they knew nothing about. Since officers had stopped the wrong people, Tim, Alyssa, and Ken did the best they could to answer the officers' questions, telling the officers that they didn't make any hand gestures, they didn't know anything about it. They asked the officers what kind of car they had observed, initially trying to assist them in identifying the people that they were looking for. Eventually, Tim began to walk away. He had been watching a football game on his phone, which we can also see in the surveillance footage as he's walking up to the garage elevator. Believing that the interaction was over, as he walked away, numerous police officers tackled Tim from behind, violently slamming him to the concrete, ripping out some of his hair, drawing their firearms and tasers, pointing them at him, pinning him to the concrete, handcuffing him in front of hundreds of onlookers on busy Fremont Street. His sister Alyssa and her boyfriend Ken were shocked at what was happening, and they began to film on their phones.
We just got here! They have a fucking taser! No, don't touch me! Don't touch me! Don't touch me! This is the antagonizing officer. This right here, my brother did nothing! We just got here! What car was it? What car was it? What car was it? We drive a Hyundai Sonata! They said that we were throwing hand signals!
Can anybody tell me?
Yes, it does! Get the fuck off of him!
It doesn't matter.
You're getting, oh yeah. You're losing your job. You're losing your job. You're losing your job. Tim, it's okay. Stop. You're going to, you are losing your jobs tonight.
Tell me what car it was. You can't tell me what car it was.
You literally stopped us coming from the parking garage. From the parking garage. Please help me. Please help me. Please help me.
Maybe tell me just like some brief background on who your clients are and how they ended up being at this scene.
3 African Americans come into my office for criminal defense. They had gone down to downtown Las Vegas, an area called the Fremont Street Experience. One of them had been charged with battery on a police officer, and the other had been charged with like obstruction, giving false information to an officer. When they came into my office, I just was drawn to them immediately. The guy who gets tackled at first in the case, Tim, he's an ex-college football player. He's just a massive guy, but just the sweetest man. And then his sister, Alyssa, she was just like a little spitfire and was really upset about the situation. And then her boyfriend, Ken, who actually gets arrested in the situation, was kind of the mellow guy of them all. But like I say, I was drawn to them. And so they started telling me the story. This hand gesture has made this officer irate. The people who made these hand gestures are actually in front of my clients, and they get into the elevator. They go up the elevator, and the cops don't bother them at all. My clients, the 3 of them, get into the elevator. They are surrounded by officers when they get out of the elevator. And my clients are like very confused as to why these officers are being so aggressive with them about these hand gestures. They don't even say what the hand gestures are. It seems like they're like implying that the hand gestures are like gang symbols or something like that. They don't say that it's, like pointing a finger gun at the officer. And so the officers are being really aggressive. I think there's 5 or 6 officers that surround my clients. My clients are trying to get answers as to why, they're questioning them as to what car this person, that made this hand gesture was driving and things like that. And officers just won't tell them. My client, Tim, he's trying to watch a college football game because he's a big college football fan. I don't know. He almost thinks it's like a joke, like it's some kind of a prank. And so after Alyssa, his sister, and he, think they've answered the officer's questions like, it wasn't us, we didn't do anything. We're driving a silver Hyundai, if that's the car you're looking for, which it wasn't. It was a black Dodge Durango. And so Tim starts to walk away. As he's walking, he gets tackled from behind by like 4 or 5 officers, taken to the ground. They pull out his hair. They put a taser in his chest. They threaten to tase his sister, and they place him under arrest. They put him in cuffs. And then they parade him out in front of hundreds of people on this Fremont Street Experience to the main road, Las Vegas Boulevard. And then they stand him in front of a police cruiser. And during that time, Alyssa she's terrified that the officers are going to kill her brother. And she's just screaming, trying to get answers as to why this whole thing happened. And both her and Ken are videotaping the whole thing.
What the
Get to the car.
Can you tell me what car he drives? Can you tell me what car he drives?
Get back. It doesn't matter. It literally does not matter.
It doesn't matter, but you said he was throwing
matter.
his gang signs out the window, but it doesn't matter what car he drives?
Doesn't matter.
Oh, you're going to jail. You're guilty. You're losing your job. That's dumb as
Go to jail too. We can take you to jail too.
He didn't do nothing to you. That's racist. Yeah. Yeah. That's goofy as He didn't even do nothing. What car does he drive?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Why doesn't it?
We don't have to tell you guys anything at this point.
Because y'all don't know the car. Because y'all don't know who did it. Y'all don't know who did it. Y'all don't know. It doesn't matter because you detained him. You don't know who did it.
Okay. He's still going to jail regardless.
Oh, because he's a black man. And he was just the first one you saw, huh?
Okay.
It could have been me. It could have been anybody.
That's all you guys do. You play the race card. It's not about that.
Then what is it about? What car does he drive?
Committing crimes.
What car does he drive?
It's about
you can't
committing
tell
crimes.
me.
Committing crimes.
Can't tell
Don't
me.
play the race
You can't
card.
tell me.
Don't play the race
Because you're
card.
racist.
Don't play the
You're
race card.
racist. You're racist. You're racist. Even the black men that you with is racist. Y'all are goofy. Y'all are
That
goofy.
makes sense. The black guy's racist.
Yeah.
Make it
Yeah.
make sense.
Make you make sense. Dumb as
We just got here.
fucking hate police.
Ignorant racist pig. You profiled the out of him. We literally got here. We didn't even ride past you.
You're not walking that
Oh,
way.
wow.
You're not walking
I
that
can't
way.
walk that
You're
way?
staying right here. You're staying right here.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me, dumbass. What the is wrong with you? Don't touch me. Huh? Say that again.
You're not passing. That's it.
Y'all goofy as He ain't do nothing to y'all. Y'all being racist, opposite doofy. Martinez. Y'all ain't dumb as hell.
Step back.
We'll explain it. Just calm down.
Y'all even trying to tase him. Y'all can't tell me what car he drives. What car does he drive?
Michelle.
What car does he drive? Y'all can't tell me shit because y'all just wanted to pick on the black man.
So then they have him standing in front of the police cruiser, and Alyssa and Ken are still trying to get answers as to, why they've arrested Tim, and they're still videotaping. And then an officer has had it with Ken's videotaping, and he grabs Ken and he throws him down to the sidewalk.
Over there. No, enough. She's reasonable. She's reasonable.
She's white.
I'm telling you to back up. Now you're being detained.
How?
Rips out his hair, and he threw him down so hard that one of the witnesses to the situation said that she stopped because she said the ground shook. And so then they arrest Ken. So now we have 2 people in custody over a situation which I don't believe is a crime, because these officers are just bullies. and they're just mad that someone would make this hand gesture. Even though this is not a crime, they've got the wrong people.
Was there any footage of the initial conversation? Looking at the body cam, it seems like everything turns on after the initial conversation had already taken place.
Yeah, so that's really suspicious to us. We think that that's intentional. They intentionally do not record any audio until, I believe, after Tim is taken down.
Why do you wait to turn your body cam on until it's time to go tackle the person? It seems like that's what they did.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what it seems like to us too. They make a number of misstatements in the reports that are easily verifiable, with the video. Because this is an area of Vegas too that's like a popular tourist destination. And so there's video everywhere. I've got like hundreds of videos of this thing, and then everybody's using their cell phone too. And so it really uncovers, a lot of the wrongdoing in this case.
They were going to unlawfully retaliate against somebody because they thought there was a gun hand gesture, that they weren't going to record that. And they only started to record once there was going to be some use of force. I mean, that's just what it seems like. Seems like to me. It's hard to believe there's so many videos and none of them can we watch and just actually hear the interaction. That's unusual. What law enforcement agency was this? City of Las Vegas?
Yeah, so this is like a special, like small law enforcement agency, the city marshals. And they only patrol like this small area. And there's other lawsuits that have been filed here about them like exceeding their jurisdiction, and making arrests and stopping people outside of this jurisdiction. Some of the officers in this case, they've been named in several other lawsuits. There's been some investigative reporting on it. And there was a story that just came out like a couple of days ago where, this officer was he left the city marshals and he went to the North Las Vegas Police Department, which is like one jurisdiction over. And this reporter contacted the North Las Vegas Police Department to get some answers about this case that I'm handling. And they pretty much immediately terminated him. He was terminated on September 23rd, apparently.
And that's one of the defendants in your lawsuit?
Yeah. Jorge Caloca.
Jorge Caloca.
Yeah, and he's the one who was so upset about these hand gestures.
He didn't even do nothing. What car does he drive?
What car is
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Why doesn't it?
But, there was two steps to this whole thing. And like the first step was to resolve, the criminal cases. And so they retained me for the more serious criminal case. These people, my clients, they don't have a lot of money. The more serious case is divided into two stages where you have a preliminary hearing and then, potentially a jury trial. So they retained me for that. And they can't retain me to defend the misdemeanor citation that Tim gets, after, initially being tackled for this obstruction charge. I'm telling them to go in, get a public attorney, and just delay. And when you can get me, a little bit of money to retain me to defend it, then I will come in and we'll get the case dismissed or we'll win a trial or whatever needs to be done. I get the gross misdemeanor, the more serious case, dismissed, but Tim, after I show the prosecutor the video, but Tim in the misdemeanor case, he enters a guilty plea after consulting with the public attorney. And so it creates an even bigger mess. To whereas I have to go and, do a motion to get that undone and then, set it for trial, show the prosecutor these videos that, my client hadn't done anything wrong. And then ultimately they dismiss that case. So it's just a big mess. If it wasn't so serious, it's like comical.
Did you get that guilty plea withdrawn?
Yeah. No, we filed a motion to withdraw the guilty plea. I couldn't believe that they had entered a guilty plea, but like I say, the public attorney went over the case and decided it was somehow in his best interests, to enter this guilty plea.
Why did the prosecutor agree to dismiss it? Was it based on just watching the footage and realizing that it didn't match up with the allegations?
Yeah, no, I had done quite a bit of work in the more serious case. We subpoenaed, a bunch of the videos from all the establishments, along the Fremont Street experience, because every single one of those businesses has cameras, and then, there's cameras recording everything. And then also we had a bunch of footage from Alyssa's phone and Ken's phone that they didn't have. And so we provided, the city attorney with all of that evidence, and then they rightfully dismissed the case.
When they first approached your clients, they didn't just immediately walk away, right? I mean, they had they had this voluntary conversation with them, and they had no idea what they were talking about.
Yeah, no, I mean, they stop and they speak with them, for a few minutes, and like, Alyssa, who's the more boisterous, of the clients, she's like trying to figure out what's going on. Tim, he's just trying to watch a college football game, and get something to eat. And like I say, he thinks it's a prank. They haven't done anything wrong. They don't know about any hand gestures, gang signs, finger guns. They don't know whether someone has like given the police the bird, or they don't know what they're talking about. And so yeah, they try to resolve it, and then my clients think like, hey, there's nothing else we can do. Like, we didn't do these things, and like, this is over. The police want to misrepresent that they said, oh, you're being detained and you can't leave, whatever. Like we talked about before, we don't have the audio in that situation, so we have no way to verify, that they would do that.
Even assuming a scenario where it was your client who made the hand gesture and these cops correctly located them and came up to question them, and your clients admitted, yeah, that was us. I made the hand gesture that you're asking about. Okay, what then? What crime are they investigating? Are they charging them with something at that point? I mean, what was what's the criminal basis for this entire interaction? What's the reasonable suspicion that any crime had occurred to substantiate any detention at all?
Yeah, so what they say at first is that this finger gun was the misdemeanor crime of intimidating a police officer. I'm not saying that people should do finger guns, and pretend to, shoot officers. But as an officer, you need to have thicker skin, and they're just like shaking people down and bullying people, and it was really extremely excessive.
If that's a crime, they didn't charge anyone with that, intimidating a police officer. Right?
No, they didn't charge my client with that. So pretty much, they're saying that this finger gun is intimidating a police officer, which we don't believe is a crime, and I don't think the prosecutor would believe is a crime. And then for the investigation of this non-crime, the cops said, "Oh, well, they didn't answer all of our questions, and they walked away, so that was obstruction." And so ultimately, Tim gets charged with obstruction and or giving false information to an officer, both of which were bogus charges.
So all the criminal charges were dismissed eventually.
Yeah, no, after a lot of work, and actually, we had to sit at the courthouse, and prepare for a preliminary hearing. I think the hearing got continued, and then after the continuance of the hearing, that's when the prosecutor eventually, dismissed the case. And then we had to set the misdemeanor for a trial, and we're preparing for a trial. And then I think on the eve of trial, the prosecutor called me or sent me an email saying we're not going to proceed. We're going to dismiss the case. So, it's a lot of work and stress, over these completely bogus charges.
Had they not walked into your office, that criminal conviction would have remained.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Tim would have been convicted. He would have been fined. He would have had a suspended sentence. He probably had to do impulse control, things like that for this non-crime. And then I'm absolutely positive that Ken, on the more serious charge, would have been convinced to enter a guilty plea too. This same cop, has been named in a number of different lawsuits. He's the one that apparently gets fed up with all of this videotaping and questioning by Alyssa and Ken. And so then he grabs Ken and, slams him to the ground.
She's lying! I'm telling you to back up. Now you're being detained.
In the officer's statement, he says, "Oh, I told him he was under arrest and he came at me." So it's very obvious from the video that he grabs him first, starts to take him down, and then says, "You're under arrest."
Oh, enough. She's reasonable. She's reasonable. She's lying. I'm telling you to back up. Now you're being detained.
So luckily we have video. We can show that, what he writes in the report is wrong.
They set out to do something malicious, because they chose not to turn their body cams on. They knew that they were going to confront somebody for something that wasn't illegal. They were already going to cover up what they were going to do. And then how scary is it that they get the wrong person, a mistaken identity, when they're already setting out to do somebody harm based on a retaliatory motivation, and then they get the wrong person. I mean, that's like I think that's a terrifying scenario that, could happen to anybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, imagine getting out of an elevator, you're like, you're going to this popular, place to get some tacos, and you're surrounded by officers, and you have no idea, why you're being confronted and what they're alleging that you did. Ultimately, you get taken down, cuffed, embarrassed, in front of hundreds of people in this crowded area, for something you have no idea, what you did. It's really, really scary.
What stage are you all at in the lawsuit now? Have you taken any depositions yet?
No, we haven't taken any depositions yet. It's been really hard to serve the police officers. For some reason, the city wouldn't accept service of the officers, and it's hard to find out where some of these officers live. It's a real problem, even procedurally, that the city won't accept service. When they want to protect, where these officers live, and even some of the government websites, they'll give you like a government building, as to the information on a property. And hide the ownership of the property. And so we have to hire a private investigator, to actually, seek out this information. It delays the whole case. And so we just got some of the last officers served a couple weeks ago, including Guzman, who's one of the main bad actors. We served Guzman at his house, and he's like, "Oh, I already have a lawyer for this," because he thinks it's a document in one of the cases he's already been sued on, I think, because there's so many lawsuits pending against him. The city filed a motion to dismiss in the federal court case, which is currently pending, and now they've filed another motion to dismiss on all the individual officers, which is pending as well.
I appreciate you talking to me. And, when something happens in that lawsuit, whether, depositions occur or you get a ruling from the court on any of the important motions, please let me know. And I'd like to follow this one and make sure that there's some level of accountability here. If anyone else out there has had personal experiences with any of these same officers, or they have information, I mean, would you be open to hearing from them? And if so, how do they reach out to you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, they can call my office. I work for a firm, Kerr Simpson. We're located in Henderson, Nevada, which is a suburb of Las Vegas. They can call me. My number is on our website.
You can just go ahead and email me the contact info that you want me to provide, and I'll put it down in the description below so that people will know how to get in touch with you.
Yeah, no, and anybody that has any information, about this case in question, which after the investigative story aired, we actually got an email from a witness. And so now we have even more video of the situation because she was videoing along with, I believe, her sister, who were there, and they witnessed the whole thing. We didn't have their information before, but if anybody has any information about this case or any similar situation, I'd love to have it.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. And like I said, stay in touch and let me know what happens.
Yeah, thank you so much, John.
So here we have yet another mistaken identity case, and the cops are caught red-handed, not only detaining the wrong person for a non-crime, but also doubling down and filing false charges and trying to get false convictions on these people. But for the fact that they walked into George's office, they probably would have the convictions. They'd be on probation, etc. But fortunately, there was video. George saw the video. George pulled more video. George showed all the video to the prosecutors. Boom, the criminal charges are gone. And now George has filed a civil rights lawsuit on their behalf. The city of Las Vegas will not even accept service for the officers. They're making George hire a private investigator just to get service. That's not really a great sign for accountability. I will put George's contact information in the description below in case you have a similar case or you have information about this case. And hopefully once he gets into depositions or gets a significant ruling, I'll be able to do an update video on this one. And you can follow along by subscribing both here and at the blog at thecivilrightslawyer.com. You can follow me on X at JohnBryanESQ. And let me know in a comment what you think. Was this some reasonable mistake that the police officers made? Or was this, as was alleged by the victims here, racial profiling? And if you think that's unfair to make that accusation here, then why didn't the officers do the right thing once they discovered the mistake, instead of doubling down and pursuing false charges? Our rights don't end where your fear begins. Freedom is scary. Deal with it.